What's up, guys? Welcome to Wakefield Wildlife. Wait a minute, how did I get in the kitchen? Oh. So I am taking over today for my wife Bethy, and I'm going to make something that I enjoy making. I'm not nearly as gifted in the kitchen as she is, so you should definitely watch her videos, but I really enjoy making stir fry and all of the different ingredients and flavors that go into it. So we're gonna get started, and make sure you hit that like button down below and click subscribe. Just a little tip for cutting onions, folks. If your eyes water, put on some goggles or something and wrap up your nose and your mouth, and that'll help to keep you from crying too much. Unless you're really sad about cutting onions. So we'll put the recipe for this in the description below, but just so you know, this is not made from a recipe. This is something I just kind of made up when I was in college trying to eat at least somewhat healthy, and I just really enjoy the way that it tastes. So what we're going to do is start off with, I've chopped up 4 zucchinis, and so we're going to start sauteing these in a pan. These take a little while to get brown and to cook down. And so they're one of the first things that I'm going to put on. So that's what I'm going to do right now. All right, so I'm going to start off by getting these zucchini on here, starting to saute. Going to have to be stirred around quite a bit to make sure that they can get browned up. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is get my onions started to give them a lot of time to brown and caramelize and cook down a bit. So I'm going to add these to the pan, this other pan. Get them going. Once they cook down a little bit and start to get brown, I'm going to add my mushrooms, and I'm going to talk about my secret to get the perfect mushrooms. The next thing that I do is get the mushrooms cooking. So I'm going to add them in with the onions so the flavors can start combining a little bit. We're going to use all of these. Now, some people may not love mushrooms that are cooked because they think they're a little bit slimy, they maybe don't like the texture. But if that's the case with you, I would say that you haven't had them cooked correctly. So the way to cook mushrooms is to cook them down and get rid of all the moisture that's in them so that they're not slimy. And I like to get them in pretty early to start cooking them down because it takes a little while. You also want to have some oil in there so they don't stick to the pan, but you don't want to have it super wet. And that helps to cook them down and get the moisture out of them. And you want to cook them until they're almost crispy. Not quite crispy because they're almost burnt by that point, but when they're still a little bit soft, but they're not slimy anymore. And then another thing that can help to dry them out as well is to add some salt while you're cooking them. And that can help get some of the moisture out. If you haven't had mushrooms like this before, you're in for a treat. All right, so you can see there's some progression being made. This is kind of what we're going for with doneness, but it's taken a little while because it's not a huge pan. It's only a 12-inch skillet, and trying to make sure all of them have some amount of brown doneness to them, because that's what tastes really good. So that's that, and then if we look over here, the onions and the mushrooms are coming along nicely. You can see the onions are really browning and caramelizing, but these mushrooms are not even close to being done yet. If you look at this one right here, it's still quite large and it looks quite slimy. And even though I think it would taste good, it doesn't taste nearly as good as when you get it really cooked down and almost crispy. So it's got a little ways yet to go before it's perfect. All right, folks, so this is what I'm talking about. This mushroom is almost done. You can see it's not burnt yet, but it's starting to get more of a dark caramelized look to it. And it's obviously not as slimy looking as it was before. That is going to be a nice mushroom. And it's going to cook down a little bit more than that. get rid of a little more moisture, maybe get a little bit darker, but this is gonna be amazing. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and add in the peppers, and I'm gonna put them right in with the onions and mushrooms that are getting closer to being done. And the peppers will cook down a little bit, and we'll just mix them in and start getting those flavors combining nicely. The next thing that I'm going to add in is the sausage. So normally I'll get a nice sausage to go in this, but part of the theme of this channel is just using whatever you have on hand. And at the beginning of this whole crisis coronavirus situation, I don't know why, but I thought it was a good idea to buy a whole bunch of cocktail wieners. And we haven't used them for anything, but that's what we have on hand. So that's what we're gonna add. So I'm gonna add it into the onions and the mushrooms and the peppers, and again, try to get all those flavors combined. All right, so these mushrooms and onions are looking really good, really caramelized and dark. The peppers are starting to look good, so we're gonna add in the cocktail wieners. Give them a chance to get kind of browned and a little crispy. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and combine all of the ingredients into one pan now and let them simmer for a little bit. Get all those flavors combined. You can see how nicely the onions and the mushrooms got cooked down and darkened. All right, so we have got our stir fry all finished up and it looks amazing. A couple other ingredients that you could add that we didn't have on hand. You can add some fresh broccoli into this and cook it down a little bit. It's also really good to add sugar snap peas. That's another thing I like to add in there. We didn't have it on hand this time, but that is really delicious as well. With those two things, I like to add them in a little bit towards the end because I like them to have a little bit of crunch left in them in the dish. So we're going to go ahead and scoop this onto a bed of rice, and then we're going to drizzle some balsamic glaze on top of it, and it is going to be amazing. I hope you enjoyed this video and this recipe and you get to try it for yourself and maybe experiment and add some different things in and see how you like it. It's absolutely delicious. Make sure you hit that like button down below. That really helps out the channel a lot. Also, if you like wildlife and especially reptiles, you should definitely check out my channel, Wakefield Wildlife. We'll leave a link in the description below. Go check it out and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Bethy will be back in the next video to cook for us, and I'm sure it'll be a lot better than mine. She's the best.